the live stream.
Thank you, James. Welcome everyone to this afternoon's virtual Health and Safety Committee meeting hosted by Bassetlaw District Council. Given the current challenging situation we all face following the outbreak of COVID-19, new legislation has been approved that enables councils to host virtual meetings rather than require members to be presented in a committee chamber when making a decision. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distancing etiquette and allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. Firstly, I would like to mention Councillor Keith Izzard, who recently resigned as a member of Bassetlaw District Council. Councillor Izzard has been a long-standing member at Bassetlaw in two phases from 1988 to 1996 and again from 2000 to 2020, sitting on the Health and Safety Committee since 2019. We would like to thank Councillor Izzard for his many years of service and wish him well for the future. And I would like also to add on to this that Councillor Izzard has always been a councillor for the Bassetlaw District Council, representing his Tuxford ward. He has always participated in every committee that he has been on, and obviously we are a great believer that committees are there and structured for the best running of this district of Bassetlaw, and no committee is deemed political. But when politics are done, they are done in the council chamber at the full council meeting where politics are thrashed out, and that's what it's about. That is a democratic society, ladies and gentlemen and fellow councillors. It is very important that councillors can hear each other, so I will invite members in alphabetical order to introduce themselves and in so do testing their broadband connection. I am Councillor David Challoner, chair of this committee. Councillor Dean Brett.
Hi.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle. Councillor David Presley.
Here, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Joan Sanger.
Here, Chairman.
Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
Here, Chairman.
Thank you. Could I just ask you, James or Ellen, if Councillor Cliff Entwistle does come into the live streaming, if you could just let us know. Thank you.
Yes, Dave, I've come in, Dave.
Right, thank you, Cliff. Cheers. We are joined by a number of employee representatives. Mel Bassett.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Keith Circuit.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Jean Common.
Here, Chair.
Thank you, Jean. Philip Lee.
Philip Lee isn't in the meeting. I can keep trying to get him.
Okay, thank you. Trudy.
Yeah,
Trudy
present.
Cheers.
Yes,
you.
present, Chair.
Thank you. Has Adele Watson joined us?
She hasn't yet, and we'll keep trying.
Right, thank you. Jim Wally. Whaley.
He sent his apologies, Chair.
Right, thank you. We also have a number of officers in attendance. Jim Moran.
Hello, Chair. Yeah, present.
Thank you. Sue Bowler.
Hello, Chair, present.
Thank you. Karen Childs.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Ellen Hinsley.
Present, Chair.
And James Lavender.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. If a number of members lose connection, the meeting becomes inquirate, or the live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure as we ordinarily would. However, I would like to highlight that this committee is being live streamed on social media, so all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. Can I remind members and everybody else who's part of the live streaming to switch off their microphones when not speaking? Thank you. Agenda item number 1 is apologies. Are there any apologies? Thank you.
Yes, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillor Tomlinson and from employee representatives David Fretwell, Glenn Watson and Jim Worley.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Are there any declaration of interest by members?
None received, Chair. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any declaration of interest by officers?
None received.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of July 2020, pages 5 to 8 of your agenda. Do all members agree that they represent an accurate record?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Does anybody wish to vote against or abstain from the voting? In that case, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Right.
Agenda item number 4 are minutes for action and implementation list, pages 9 to 10 of your agenda. These have been addressed. Does anyone have any comments, or are we happy to accept them? I think some of the things on that agenda item are going to be addressed a bit later on as well in the confidential side. So we have got an update on things. In that case, the minutes for action and implementation.
Councillor Challenge. David Presley would wish to speak, Chair.
Yeah, I've got my hand up.
Right.
It's just on the list of play areas. I can't remember getting them.
It was sent out, Dave.
I'll have to have a look then. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, it
I'll have a
was.
look at it, yeah.
I'm sure you sent it out, didn't you, Helen?
I did, yeah, but I can forward another copy to Councillor Presley.
Yeah, if you do that, that'd be grateful.
Will do.
I'll check it, Chair. I might have it, so I'll check it first.
Yeah, okay. In that case, the minutes for action implementation noted as received. Is everybody in favour of that? If so, we'll approve the minute. Approve and commit any questions, response, which we have done. So, agenda item number 5 is the outstanding minutes list, pages 11 to 12 of your agenda. This will be addressed in the agenda item number 7A, which obviously on your papers, which you've received, is all the yellow restricted ones, where the officer is going to give us an update. Agenda item number 6A is accident report for the period 1st of April 2020 to 30th of June 2020, pages 13 to 20 on your agenda. I will now hand over to Jim Moran, to give this report. Thank you. Over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, as you've mentioned, this covers the period from April to June 2020, and we also provide a comparison of statistics for the same period in 2019. We also provide the committee with a summary of accidents by injury type and accident cause, and also a summary of all accidents occurring with each of the council's services during this period. Now, paragraph 3, you'll note that we have 5 incidents reported during this report period, compared with 8 incidents reported during the same period in 2019. We've had 0 reportable injuries. They are reported to the HSE. We've had 0 reportable injuries during this report period, which is the same as the period in 2019, 0. However, one of the incidents you'll note at paragraph 3.2, one of the incidents involved a report of a dangerous gas fitting at one of the council's domestic premises. And as such, by law, under the RIDDOR regulations, this incident had to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive as a dangerous gas fitting incident. And it was done so by the gas supervisor within our housing service. We've had no working days lost as a result of accidents in this period, and that compares with 2 lost days for the period in 2019. If we move on to paragraph 3.3, which refers to the tables 1, 2, and 3, you'll notice that the results within those tables show that 3 of the 5 incidents during this period were attributed to causes within the other category. This category, we tend to group things that haven't been specified a category under the HSE's categories of accident types, and these include 1, the dangerous gas fitting, a second one was a dog bite, and the third one was a road traffic collision, which involved no injury. It was a member of the public that collided with one of our refuse freighters, but there was no injury. It was a minor light collision, basically. And at table 3, you'll see a summary of all accidents by service. From that, you'll notice an overall decrease in the number of accidents from 8 to 5, and all 3 of the services who reported incidents during this period showed a reduction of 1 incident during the period when compared with last year's figures. Now, in order to give the committee a bit more long-term comparison of accident statistics, we've also provided at Appendix 2 figures from July 2017 to June 2020. They're attached to Appendix 2. And you'll notice from that chart at Appendix 2 that the current number of, the total number of accidents, i.e. 5, is actually below the 3-year average of 10.16. So we're almost half of the quarterly average for the last 3 years. And when we look at the lost time incidents, well, we're 0 reportable incidents this time. So that figure is obviously going to be below the 3-year average of 1.9 per quarter. And just finally, 3.6 there, we have we would normally report any incidents reported by the DWP who occupy Queen's buildings, and on this occasion there is nothing to report from DWP, Chairman, and that's that report, and I can take any questions.
Right, thank you. Members will now be offered. Hello.
Sorry, could I just let you know that Adele Watson and Phil Lee have joined the meeting as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Members will now be offered the opportunity to ask questions, and I will move around them alphabetically. I will then ask if there are any further comments or questions from employee representatives. So I'll start off by asking councillors. Councillor David Challoner, I have got no question. Councillor Dean Brett.
No questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Councillor Entwistle.
No,
Thank you.
No questions, David. It's a
Thank
good
you.
report, isn't it?
Yeah. Councillor David Presley.
Yes, Chairman. Is there any incidents of COVID that we've not had reported on?
Over to you, Jim.
So, Chair, just struggling with the mouse there. We've had no COVID incidents reported on She. I'm fairly certain that if there were, I think probably Karen might be in a better position to report those. It's not something we would normally report on the She system. I'm saying normal. It's not really a very normal time for She reporting, but certainly nothing reported so far, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jones Sanger.
No question, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
No questions from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to the employee representatives. Mel Bassett.
No questions, Chair.
Thank you. Keith Circuit.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, but David Fretwell, in his absence, has asked me to pass on a couple of comments during the meeting. And the first one he'd like to pass on is the fact that even though there are less people on site because of COVID, it's a good trend that accidents have gone down, which has been the case for the last 3 meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Jean Common.
Nothing from me, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Phil Lee.
Yeah, no questions, Chair.
Thank you. Trudy Walstow.
No questions from me, Chair.
Thank you. Adele Watson.
No questions from me.
Thank you. Yeah, if we could, I'd just like to sum up a little bit on the report. Like Keith's pointed out from what Dave Fretwell's asked him to say, yeah, we have noticed obviously a trend where the accident statistics are coming down, which in one sense is very good. It shows that the training and the things that the council puts in place is helping to lower the trend of accidents, because nobody goes to work to have an accident. But on the other side of things, when things do start coming back round to some kind of normality, i.e. that people do start returning to work or from working from home and things like that, then obviously we need to keep his eye on the ball to make sure that we don't get a spike in any accident, relativity kind of thing, that we do get people coming back to work and that we do get them coming back into a safe environment. And that the other side of things, that we are always there, whether it's as of representatives or part of this health and safety committee, that if anything feels that they need to bring anything to our attention, please bring it, because that's what we're here to do, to try and prevent accidents. So thanks for that report, Jim. I would now like to go on to agenda item number 6, which is the 6B, is the progress report for the health and safety and emergency planning, which is pages 21 to 50 of your agenda. And I'd like to ask Sue Bowler to present the first part of this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with 3.2 on the fire risk assessments. They were scheduled for Worksop Town Hall and Queen's Buildings, including the Citizens Advice Bureau and the 2 shires and the police area. They have now been completed and we're just waiting for the reports to come in. Domestic property, only emergency fire actions are being carried out on domestic property, and work continues ongoing with voids where service levels allow. The housing meeting minutes for the fire you can see as Appendix 1, and they were from the 14th of July. And the fire risk assessments at housing properties were due to be started in September. The programme will be scaled up as COVID-19 situation permits, and I think that's a bit in the balance at the moment. The Housing Property and Development Manager will also receive Savills COVID-19 secure risk assessment prior to allowing them to commence on site. 3.3, the water quality monitoring. The quarterly water quality meeting has taken place on the 16th of September. The responsible person for Legionella control is in direct contact with DCS, and all items that require attention will be completed. The council has a service contract in place with DCS, and that they continue to carry out site monitoring for Queen's Buildings, Retford Town Hall, the Retford Enterprise Centre, Carlton Forest Depot, and all the independent living schemes as per the contract. All independent living schemes are currently being flushed weekly by the wardens and sampled monthly by DCS. Access to properties within the schemes for people who are shielding or who have symptoms will not be carried out. And what they do is they document that for future reference should anything happen. And 3.4, housing water quality monitoring. A housing water quality Legionella meeting took place via Skype on 26th of August. We have had another one since then. Second element, have the property stock to complete for this financial year, and they'll only be carrying out risk assessments that are deemed as essential until further notice. So that's just work ongoing. At Priory Court, one of these sheltered housing schemes, temperature monitoring for the incoming cold water supply has been out of the L8 parameters. This could be due to the spells of hot weather that we've had during the summer months, because the mains incoming water has been at 18 degrees. Then once it's got into the tank, it's getting warmer while it's stood there. So it's been delivered into the accommodation in some properties over 20 degrees. So site visits have taken place to establish what can be achieved to lower the temperature. The plant room is lagged, 99% of it's lagged to prevent the heat transfer. And the height of the refill valves inside the cold water tank have been altered to lower the amount of stored water. So that means that as the water's coming in, we're not storing as much and it's turning over quicker. Monitoring continues to establish if this is a seasonal issue throughout the remainder of the year. And we've already noticed with September temperatures that it has dropped. So it's something that we do have to manage in future months, over the years in the summer months. Flexi hoses that have been installed are going to be replaced by the contractor on an ongoing programme of works once they're able to get back to work. And some of those flexi hoses are going to be done by some housing staff when work allows. So 3.5, health and safety training. Limited health and safety training has been completed since the last meeting. Fire awareness training, 6 people. Emergency first aid at work, 1 person. First aid at work initial, 2 people. Manual handling e-learning, 1 person. And Sharps e-learning, 3 people. It's been agreed that going forward, health and safety training can recommence as long as it's organised with COVID-19 precautions and groups are kept to a minimum of 6 people. Display screen equipment assessments. Staff members working from home were asked to complete a DSE assessment to establish whether they have access to a safe workstation. So far, there have been 183 assessments completed. A report of requirements arising from the assessments, together with comments and recommendations from the safety officers, has been sent to HR for identification of equipment needs. No decision has yet been made by CMT for staff to return to work. 3.6, COVID-19 secure risk assessments. 4 generic COVID risk assessments templates have been created to assist managers to complete risk assessments before employees return to work. The assessments have been pre-populated to assist managers with the process of enabling them to edit and reflect working practices. In addition, there's Government HSE and Public Health England guidance documents attached to the assessments for reference. So there's 4 different areas where these assessments cover. One is working inside domestic or commercial premises, safely delivering work within an office environment, safely delivering work outdoors, and working safely in teams from vehicles. In addition to this, a return to work assessment for clinically vulnerable people is available on the SHE system. Managers, in conjunction with employees, must complete the assessment before they are allowed to return to their usual workplace. Only those who are unable to work from home will be required to complete this assessment. There are currently 79 assessments completed on the SHE system. And that concludes my report, Chair. I'll take any questions if anybody's got anything. Thank you.
On Sue's section of this report, I will go around councillors and ask them if they've got any questions on the areas what Sue's covered, and obviously the representatives. If anybody has got any questions, feel free to ask Sue, and she will obviously try and oblige by answering these questions to the best of her ability with the things available at this time. If not, no doubt she will write the question down and get the appropriate answer back to you. Thanks for that, Sue. So I, Councillor David Challoner, I have got no question to ask on your report, Sue. Councillor Dean Brett.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
None from me, David.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Presley.
Yeah, I've got two, Chairman.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, 3.3, which is the water quality monitoring. Access to properties within the scheme are shielding. I thought the shielding initiative had finished now, shielding. I was shielding, so I've been told I don't shield now, so that's been finished. And 3.4, Priory Court, a new initiative from the District Council, and when we're having problems already. So it's got to be the contractor that puts things right, I would have thought, not us.
Over to you, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. On the Priory Court, it is down for the contractor to come back, but if we've got spare capacity, we can also do that as well within housing. These flexi hoses, but you're right, it is the contractor. They've put them in and they shouldn't have done, so it should be them that's coming back to fix that problem. And you're about the shielding, it has finished. Shielding finished by the 1st of August, but some people still want to sort of have that, you know, they don't want people coming into the house because they've got health problems, and also if anybody's got any symptoms. So I can't remove that from the next minutes about shielding.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Just on the Priory Court, if it shouldn't be us doing the work unless they're paying for it, the contractor as well. Is that what we're doing, Sue?
I'm not sure about because nothing's been done yet. We're still waiting for the contract to come back. So I don't know the ins and outs of you know, what we're saying is we might have the capacity to be able to do this quicker than the contractor might be able to do, but it is their responsibility to put right what's wrong.
Thanks, Chair.
It's commonly known, David, as snagging. So, Councillor Joan Sanger.
No questions, Chair, but thank you for the information, Sue.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
No questions from me, Chair, thank you.
Over to employee representatives, Mel Bassett.
No questions on this one, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Keith Circuit.
Nothing from me or from Dave Fretwell on this, Chair. Thank you.
Cheers. Jean Common.
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Philip Lee.
No, nothing from me, Chairman.
Thank you. Trudy Walstow.
Nothing from me, Chairman.
Thank you. Adele Watson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over to, I'll just go back to something I should have done on agenda item 6A, which was move to the recommendation, which was on page 15. Does anybody wish to vote against or abstain from voting on agenda item 6A? In that case, we support the recommendations as on page 15. Thank you. Now we'll go back to, it's been a long day. Agenda item 6B, the second part, which is the emergency planning procedures, which is down to Jim Moran. Over to you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The coronavirus pandemic obviously was declared, as we know, by the World Health Organization on the 11th of March. The response to that within the UK has been determined by the UK government at national level, and we, local authorities and others, within the Local Resilience Forum are trying to deliver and coordinate that response as tightly as we can. The council's response, obviously, to the pandemic is constantly under view as the situation changes fairly rapidly and fairly frequently. All Nottinghamshire councils have agreed right at the start of this pandemic a list of essential services which they wanted to maintain, and indeed in all cases, I believe, did maintain that complete list of essential services. Although we don't have a full workload back at work at the minute, in fact, we have anything but that, but wherever we do have people back in the workplace, the usual health and safety arrangements that apply under normal circumstances are still expected to be put in place during this pandemic. There is discussions at the minute within the PPE subgroup at the Local Resilience Forum of local authorities being refunded for PPE used as a response or within a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's something that is happening now. We're actually being supplied through the LRF and the County Council with a regular supply of personal protective equipment. There was an exercise took place on the 29th of July to test the response principles to the local outbreak control plan. This is the plan put together by the directors of public health for both Nottinghamshire and Nottingham City councils. The event was attended by over 100 participants from many of the players within members of the Local Resilience Forum, including ourselves. We were well represented at that event, and the idea really was to make it more familiar to the people who don't normally get involved in these sort of plans. It was held, the training was held virtually via MS Teams, and it was generally an awareness raising, but there was also a tabletop exercise that was led by a facilitator at each of the groups to dig deeper into what their particular organisation, the council, the district council, the county council's response would be at different scenarios which were set out as part of the incident. And I think the exercise achieved its objective of making those delegates more aware of what's actually contained within that plan. If I move on to 4.2, which is the emergency evacuation plan, Chair, for Carlton Forest House, that draft plan for Carlton Forest Depot, I should say, is attached at Appendix 2 for consultation. Now, this is a plan that we're putting together. It's for the whole depot. Should there be a need to evacuate the entire depot due to fire or for whatever emergency incident, this plan has been put together to enable that to be done more efficiently and effectively. So it's there for any comments, Chair, from this committee, and we will consult obviously wider, and I've already started consulting wider for any of the managers present at the depot. Paragraph 5 is a corporate risk group update. There's really no change there, Chairman. The risk that relates to this committee really is risk number 14, the failure to properly risk assess council practices and take appropriate action. We're still looking at a C3, an amber risk there, Chairman, for that, but this is reviewed every 3 months at the corporate risk group, and obviously we'll feedback should that assessment change. And that's it, Chair. I'll try and take any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Once again, I will go round the councillors first and then the employee representatives in alphabetical order. If you do wish to ask Jim, or if you have got any comments on his report, please don't hesitate to get them out into the public domain, because it is really good that we show that we all take a participation in these meetings. So, I, Councillor Dave Challoner, I have got nothing to add at this moment in time. Councillor Dean Brett.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
None from me, David, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
Just one, Chairman.
Yeah, go on, Dave.
It's not a question, it's an observation.
Yeah.
4.2, Carlton Forest Depot, I would like that to go out to all councillors.
Yeah, we've got no
They
problem.
know that the emergency evacuation plan at Carlton Forest.
I can't see no problem with that. Once the consultation's been done and the final draft, final report, that can be sent out to all councillors, can't it, Jim?
I don't see any problem with that, Chairman. When we finalise the document, that shouldn't be a problem. Obviously, all members of this committee have already got the copy attached to the report.
Yeah.
But that may not be the final version. There may be some minor changes to it. So yes, we can do that.
Thank you. Councillor Jones Sanger.
Thank you,
No
Chair.
questions, Chair, but thanks for the information again.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. Over to the employee representatives. Mel Bassett.
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mel. Councillor Keith Circuit.
Not yet. Thanks, Chair. A couple of comments. That we've seen the evacuation plan for Carlton Forest previously. It's just a concern that there does seem to be a lack of fire marshals and wardens in some of the areas, and with the fact that Tim Andrew has now left, that leaves another gap in there. Yeah, I know from personal experience it's difficult to fill these roles, but it just is a concern that some of the areas are missing marshals. And a comment from David Fretwell is that who do the staff report to if the appropriate marshal is not on site on the evacuation at the time of the evacuation? We've already passed these comments on, I believe, to Sue Bowler, so she's aware of them. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Keith. Have you got anything you'd like to add on to this, Jim?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, Keith said the comments have been passed on already. We are aware, obviously, and COVID-19 has really brought it into focus of any sort of weakness that might be there in relation to staff not being present at a particular depot or office building. We are aware of that, and we're looking at that at the minute. It may need to be that our approach to nominating specific people might have to change in respect of the fire procedures to broaden that, so that basically anybody who is there in a position of responsibility needs to sort of stand up and take responsibility for part of the evacuation. So it really has been brought home to us at the minute with the COVID-19 and the lack of numbers of people within the office buildings that we have and the depot buildings, that there is some piece of work to do on this, Chairman, and we are aware of that in the health and safety team, and we are working on that at the minute.
Thanks, Jim. Just to back up, obviously, from my view on this, is obviously, like you stated, COVID-19 has had a massive impact on the infrastructure, the running of the council, and these are the things that, might be under the radar, but are very important. And then also, when it comes to this point, that it just shows that without the right people to carry on, that how susceptible we are. Now, to me, I think, once again, it's with the representatives of the employees, plus ourselves as officers, and even us as a committee, when there's back to some kind of normality, and we see that people are returning to work, that's when we might have to relook at things and also see if people are willing to come forward. But like you say, if, say, for instance, the initial person who is responsible as a fire warden or whatever the position or designated responsibility is, if they are not there, then it needs to come down to, which is everybody is responsible for their own health and safety as well, which is part of the Health and Safety at Work Act. So it might be something that we might have to try and incorporate that is part of a like a similar to a back to work scheme, because I mean, if people are, you know, some people have been off nearly 7-8 months, not off work, but away from the place of work if they are working from home. So it might be around to, we might have to get something together, which is getting back to the familiarisation also to what kind of responsibilities. I mean, if, say, for instance, something did happen, say the Warra fire, we know that everybody, not just going to stand around and say, oh, I'm going to get out my sen and sort of like stuff him sat over there. Everybody's going to work together because it's a natural reaction for people to work and to look after each other. So these are along the grounds where we might have to look at things and try and make things a little bit simpler rather than putting all the onus on one person as such, because you never know if that person could be on holiday, could be off sick or anything, because fires, accidents can happen at any time. So we need to be prepared. Like they said in Cub Scouts, be prepared. So thanks for that, Keith. And I hope that we've got you some answers. And thanks for your comments and everything that you've passed on to Sue and Jim, and that we can hopefully work together and get them sorted. Jean Common, have you got anything?
Could you unmute your microphone, please, Jean?
Sorry, I thought I was. Nothing from me.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Philip Lee?
Yeah, no questions, Chair.
Thank you. Trudy Wolstow?
Just an observation, really, Chair. Obviously, I work within one of the essential services that were identified, homelessness. And sort of since March, our service has been working in isolation almost, shall I say, you know, to try and maintain service delivery. But what struck me is that the attitudes of the organisations that we work with, who have shut down their services and, you know, to keep their staff safe. But there's been an expectation that Bassett Law District Council staff who are working will pick up the slack, and basically it's okay for us to go out. It's okay for us to go in people's homes. You know, and the attitude has been quite stark, really, that organisations have sort of said, we're not doing certain things to keep people safe, but the expectation is that Bassett Law District Council staff, you know, can still do that. So that's been a little bit difficult, really, because we've had to get the message across to people that, you know, we also need keeping safe, and we're just as important as everybody else. And I think it might help if there was maybe a corporate message that came, you know, to back us up, because I think initially Jean might comment on this. You know, we didn't get any real clear guidance as to whether we could go out and visit people in homes. We were sort of doing it by stealth, if you know what I mean, to make sure that service delivery was maintained. And we were using our own PPE, and we were buying our own PPE so that we could do that. You know, we have been provided with some now, but it seems that officers are having to take responsibility for sorting things out themselves, if you like, rather than a corporate message being given out to say, yes, there is PPE here, this is how you get it, this is who can have it. And also just the message that it's been put out there now that certain services at the council are offering face-to-face interviews with people again. Well, that message has gone out to members of the public who think that in order to get an appointment, they need to request it. But we've been given the opposite message, and we've been told that we should only do face-to-face interviews when it's absolutely necessary and where the officer deems it inappropriate to be able to progress that matter any further without meeting with that person, and that, you know, stringent measures have got to be put in place. So we kind of staff are getting mixed messages, I think, and we're kind of not sure, you know, what we should and shouldn't be doing. So I think some sort of corporate steer might help there, really, just to you know, let people know that they are supported in what they're doing.
Right. I would ask, obviously, Jim and Sue to comment on that. Thank you for that question and comment, Trudy. So over to you, Jim and Sue. And know we've got the appropriate risk assessment put in place, but sometimes things aren't included in a risk assessment. I know we try and cover everything, but if you'd like to respond to the questions, please.
Well,
Chair.
I can.
Chair, Jean has raised her hand and wishes to speak.
Yeah, Jean, would you like to speak, Jean?
Yeah, it's just to sort of like clarify a little bit more what Trudy was saying. I think corporately there needed to be something a bit sooner than what there was in relation to how certain service areas were going to be delivering their service. The team that I'm in, we also undertake visits into people's homes to ensure that they're safe, because housing standards is what we do. But fortunately for our team, we understand the whole risk assessment process, and we actually devised our own risk assessment before there was one corporately put out, for which needed amending, which Jim had mentioned earlier on. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that I think during a different meeting that I was in with Trudy, that I actually, well, Trudy was aware that they could approach the depot stores to request their PPE, because that wasn't filtered down. And so where to go to have a look on the SHE system for the generic COVID risk assessments, which they could then amend towards, you know, their working practices. And I just think, I don't know whether it's senior management that just aren't sort of like relaying this information effectively, but it does need to be looked at, because I think communication is probably one of the things which has cropped up yet again. And I think COVID has shown how the communication strategy is pretty weak to sort of like filter information down. Okay.
Thanks for that. Would you like to respond to those questions, Jim and Sue, please?
Yeah, I can kick that one off, Chairman. Yes, as has been said, the two risk assessments, we had two lots of risk assessments that we developed within our team. The first one was the COVID response assessment, which was the early one, which made reference to what staff should do and shouldn't do, and what managers should inform the staff that they should and shouldn't do if they are symptomatic, or if members of the household and so on are symptomatic. There were certain things that they couldn't do, and the majority of our staff sorry, I think my screen's acting up. The majority of our staff, I believe, were almost immediately put on work from home wherever they could. The follow-up to the response risk assessment, the response risk assessment rather, came fairly soon after the pandemic was announced. It was certainly towards the latter end of March, but it wasn't very much after the pandemic was announced. And then following on from that, we have the COVID secure risk assessment, which we've produced the template for, which I think Trudy and Gina both alluded to. Now, these were to be developed, I think as Sue had mentioned in her report earlier, they had to be developed by the service managers. Now, with the best will in the world, our team have tried to monitor those to make sure that managers have actually developed, amended, and made them their own for their own service area. Because our view, and I think the view of the council, is that without a COVID secure risk assessment, the team or the individuals shouldn't be returning to work and shouldn't be returning to do the job that they're doing until that COVID secure assessment was actually in place. So I would like to think that everybody who is actually working at work rather than work at home at the minute is already aware of and has been contributed to a COVID secure risk assessment for their team. And I'm not sure if that addresses anybody's points, Chair, but I mean, obviously the communication side of that, you know, we can try to improve what comes out of our service, Chair, and distribute that wider. But my understanding is that the message got to managers, certainly to senior managers, fairly early on and fairly clearly.
In that, obviously, you've answered a couple of the points, but one of the main points is, Jim, that obviously part of the risk assessment is if PPE is required, and that PPE has been made available, why haven't the senior line managers told the employees further down the line where they can pick this PPE up and that it is made readily available, rather than them having to find out later on, which might have caused some problems when it's been stated that they've even bought their own PPE. At the end of the day, we are a council. We have budgets set aside for safety stuff and PPE, so that's where it needs to be used from. So the communication side, I would say, from my perspective as chair of this committee, is yeah, you do a great job in the sense that we put things together, but it's down to the senior line managers to get this message down to the employees so that they feel safe, i.e. taking on the tasks of work and also carrying out these tasks of work.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The PPE issue and supply issue has never really changed. It has always been through the stores. That's my understanding. I know some departments do take on board their own responsibility and seek their own supply chains, but generally speaking, nothing has changed in that the central stores are still the main supplier for PPE. So I wasn't aware that was something that has changed as a result of COVID. Now, when we're talking about PPE, and I'm still not quite sure whether we're talking about PPE required to protect against COVID-19, because there are very few of our employees, and to be fair, Trudy's team and Jean's team probably are two of the teams that this may impact on, that need to go into to work with members of the public that may need to give care, for example, because other than people giving care, there is no specific PPE that was required until recently, when we were all starting to wear face coverings, which aren't classed as PPE. When we refer to PPE, we're talking about masks that are there to protect against respiratory particles. Obviously, sad to hear that people haven't got this and have had to source their own, but obviously that message does need to go out loud and clear that supplies are available within the central stores, and we can get that message out, Chair.
Thank you. And just on another note, and this is obviously for Jean and Trudy. First of all, I'd like to thank you and please thank your teams for going that extra mile because of the services that this council delivers. If other services which are beyond our control have stopped doing what they should be doing, it just shows that the people who work for Bassetlaw District Council are caring, because nobody likes to see anybody who's suffering or whatever, and that this council once again, even through this pandemic, has gone that extra mile. So please pass that thank you on. And I think also that if these other services aren't starting to return and people are expecting a lot more than what we're supposed to be delivering, if you would please let your line managers know so that we can try and sort this situation out, because the last thing we want is for our members to be exposed to more situations than what they're supposed to be being exposed to. Have you got anything that you'd like to follow up with that, Trudy or Jean?
Yeah, just to say regarding the PPE, Jim, we've been told that we need to wear a mask, use hand sanitizer and have the gloves, but we've only just been provided with that when we're carrying out home visits and everything, and we've only just been told that we can obtain it from the depot. So those messages have only, even if those messages were made to managers some time ago, it's only just actually filtered through to us. So, I'm not sure why that is, but
okay, yeah, certainly I take that point, Trudy, and we will speak to managers to make sure that they are aware that supplies are available from the stores.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Have you got anything else you'd like to comment on, Jean, seeing you asked a question?
Yeah, well, basically, like I say, we've been okay in environmental health because a lot of us have a health and safety sort of like background and knowledge anyway. And the stuff that Jim and Sue have put together has been useful as well. And we've been lucky because we knew what was required anyway, because we deal with, most of us have been trained to deal with outbreaks and pandemics anyway. So, but just thank you for listening and taking it on board. Like I say, I think it's mainly the communication really, so that everybody's aware and everybody gets to know in good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Adele Watson, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Chair, Councillor Presley has raised his hand.
Yeah, Dave.
It's not on what you said just now. I've looked back at the other bits, and on page 43, special arrangements, disabled employees, it makes it a bit difficult to understand that part of it, because it says fire wardens will check seize refuges and assist in evacuation as necessary. I can remember a while ago, because I'm disabled now, as you know, Chairman, and I had hard work getting upstairs and downstairs to the fire procedure in Queen's Building. There was nothing there to tell me what to do when I was upstairs. It'd be helpful to have some notices about that, I think, Chairman, in Queen's Buildings as well as in Carlton Forest.
Okay, I think we'll sort that. I think Sue will be able to sort that. I know, obviously, in Queen's Buildings, if, say, for instance, if there are people of with some form of disability that they can't get down the stairs, there is them like stair chair things, isn't there? I have seen them in the building. So, there is something there if we need to get people out quickly. But it's like you say, if there was some form of notification, David, then we'll check that out.
We have got the evac chairs, like you say, and we have got the refuges, the disabled refuges. So that's what it's sort of saying, that you stay in this refuge until somebody comes to assist you to get out. So the refuges are signed up, but I'll just check. I'll get someone to check the signage and see what it actually says.
Yeah, but don't worry, Councillor Presley. If I were in building and you were there and it caught fire, I'd give you a fireman's lift.
No, you'd left me. You'd leave me.
So, I now move to recommendation on page 25, which is that the progress on the health and safety priorities be noted. Does anybody wish to vote against or abstain from voting? I will take that as a recommendation as carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7 is section B, items for discussion in private. The live streaming will shortly be stopped as we move to the confidential items. I would like to thank everybody who has been watching the live stream meeting. Can we please stop the live streaming?